Hello and welcome to today's pre-concert interview at Atelier Musical, our private concert series in the Hudson Valley. My name is Heike Bachmann, I'm the video host for Atelier Musical, and I'm very excited to welcome to today's interview jazz guitarist Tony Romano on acoustic and electric guitar and bassist Josh Paris. Welcome, gentlemen. Good to have you here.
Yeah,
really excited to have you. As you know, in a couple of hours, you will be recording live in this state-of-the-art sound studio. But unlike other recordings or studio recordings, you will have a live audience present with you inside the studio. So what difference, if at all, do you think will make the presence of people in the recording studio for you?
I think it's going to be an interesting experiment since it's not something either one of us has done before. In a hall or a club that's being recorded and you're just focused on playing your performance, you're not thinking so much about the recording. Here, where a studio is usually a more sterile environment and it's just the musicians, here we'll have the energy of the people in the room where we're playing, which is going to be very interesting. I'm really looking forward to it. So in this very, small space, close proximity to us, but without the same distractions maybe of a live performance where people get up and move or make sounds or
dishes being
dishes or
around.
glass,
Yeah,
right. So from that, perspective, it's going to be interesting to feel the vibe in the room and how it, affects us and how that gets translated into our music.
Yeah, nice. Josh, how about you?
Yeah, I was thinking about too the lack of interaction of like a normal audience, which, some of the gigs I've played, there is no interaction from the audience. But you finish a song and it's like, there's a room full of people, and if no one's clapping, does it mean we did a bad job? So that'll be an interesting thing. But I just love the presence and being in the same room and having that collective experience.
Yeah.
And I know my favorite recordings feel like an experience, as opposed to being in isolated booths with headphones on, and it's just it's a different sound that those records create. And for me, I love when you can tell they're in the same space.
Yeah,
nice. When John Coltrane walks towards the microphone, you can hear his sound change.
Sure. Yes. Oh, nice. So it's the best of both worlds, kind of, right? So you have the presence, but you don't have the noise distraction that usually happens in a jazz club or concert hall. Tony, you will be playing acoustic and electric guitar. Can you tell us a little bit about the difference in feel for you with both guitars?
There's a big difference for me when I'm playing acoustic versus electric, and in this case, there's no pickup on the acoustic to feed it through a system. The first thing is you have a different type of decay on your notes when you play acoustic as opposed to an electric, and the most obvious is, one sound is coming out of the instrument itself, and with the acoustic and with the electric, it's coming out of the amplifier. So it's behind you. It's a different experience as a player, and each one, I think, lends itself to some different vocabulary in some ways.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it's still my vocabulary put into the different instruments, and so. The big difference is the sonic aspect of it, and the articulation of the note being hit, and you feel it. Like when I'm playing the acoustic, I can actually feel it on my body.
Amazing.
And as it projects out of the sound hole, and the electric is different that way as it's coming out of the amplifier. So it's always, when I play in those two situations back to back, if I switch on and off, it always takes me a little bit to kind of get used to that adjustment, and then settle in. Yeah.
Very good. Wow, never heard that one before. That's really good. Josh, how does it affect you as the rhythm section reacting to the different instruments, acoustic or electric?
Yeah, I think strangely for me, there's like a volume thing that, you know, we've been working on that in here, and it's like just trying to fit inside of each one of the sounds instead of, you know, because my hope is that I'm supportive to whatever situation I'm part of.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's trying to like play a little bit lighter, use a slightly different part of my finger and my right hand. Also thinking about, find myself moving to the higher registers more often when we're playing, when he's on acoustic as opposed to electric.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's not a whole lot that I can do, like from changing up my whole technique.
Yeah, yeah. Is electric more rhythmic than acoustic, acoustic more melodic, or not really? That you cannot really say that.
I mean, you can play more rhythmic or less rhythmic on either instrument. I would say, in general, it's easier to be, like, the acoustic really lends itself to the rhythmic aspect in a different way than the electric, where it's easier to play more legato, again, because of the way the notes decay or don't, and the sonic sort of what the instrument puts out. But the dynamic part of it, from a volume, what Josh was saying, is that's an extremely important difference. And that's what I was saying about the decay of the notes. You know, you hit it with the electric, it just continues for a longer time, and it's easier to get to adjust. And so with the acoustic, if I try to play harder, louder, if I try to be louder, then I'm going to lose the beauty of the sound of the instrument. I'm going to overplay. Sometimes you want to play hard just to be, you know, to articulate a point. You know, you really want to play, you know, play aggressively, let's say. But you can't play that way to match a volume. There's no way that my acoustic guitar can match the volume of his bass. So I have to like take that. And that's a learning over the years. That's a thing that I've learned about playing acoustically, that I can't do that. That's been a tough lesson sometimes.
It's actually an interesting thing. Brings me to a question that I didn't even think of before. You being, as you said before, in the supportive role, right, as the rhythm section. So you're listening a lot to Tony. Are you, as the melodic headliner, so to say, listening to your supporting section as well?
Always. I'm listening to Josh more than I listen to myself. That's when you're playing with other people. When you're playing with other people, of course you're listening, you hear yourself, and you're expressing, and you're speaking through your instrument. But it's the whole, with improvisation, that's the communication. We're having a discussion. So I'm always focused on what Josh is doing. And if there was a four-piece band or whatever, a larger ensemble, you're focused on hearing everybody in a certain way. Maybe you might focus on one person more than another, but you always have this sort of perspective of you're in a room, just like the three of us are having a conversation. That's what music is, especially when you're improvising. And I don't think of it as Josh is the rhythm section and I'm not, or it's really, you know, when I'm soloing, sure, Josh is interacting with me and laying down the foundation. And when he's soloing, I'm kind of doing the same for him. So, but it's this all the time. It's this interwoven connection.
Like a conversation.
It's a conversation.
It's a conversation,
That's right.
yeah. And drives home also, I think, like how important it is, your stage sound, so that you hear each other. I don't know how that works in a studio. I remember live performances, you have your own speakers on stage, so you can hear differently than what the
Monitors,
audience.
Well, that's what we were working on earlier, getting the sound so we can both hear each other comfortably, and so balancing the sound. And then once we put people in here, it's going to change the sound, because there's going to be some absorption with the people.
Yes.
So, and that's typical, like when you sound check in an empty hall or an empty club, and then, everything sounds okay, we got it, sounds good, I can hear it. And then you fill the place, and then it's a totally different experience, and it takes that, first song to be like, oh, okay, I have to adjust the way I was thinking about the sound here. It's pretty typical. Yeah.
Maybe we can talk a little bit about the set list for tonight. How did you go about choosing it? Will there be all originals or some covers as well, improvisations on existing songs?
It's a mix of things. So we have maybe a handful of standards we've been working on. We try to make them our own in different ways. And then we're playing some of Tony's tunes, and it's a mix of some will be on acoustic, some will be on electric. We may try one of my tunes.
Nice.
After this interview, we're going to rehearse
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, cool. Okay.
a new one for us and of Josh's, and so fingers crossed we'll do that
Very
today.
nice.
Yeah.
Wow. What interests me always in jazz, aside from the communication, which I find fascinating between the musicians, but it's also the different style influences. I have a neighbor who's a music promoter, and every time people ask him, what type of music do you promote? He says, good music. So what type of style influences?
Well, it's funny you mentioned that because in the beginning, when you introduced me, you said jazz guitar
Yeah,
player, and I don't.
yeah.
Although I play jazz, I don't really consider myself like just a jazz guitar player. There are guitar players, when I think of Wes Montgomery, he's a jazz guitar player.
That's right.
But I play a lot of different kinds of music, and jazz is definitely the vocabulary, the idiom I like to work in, and that's pervasive in who I am as a musician, regardless of what music I'm playing. But I think, having studied Brazilian music and classical music and having played, pop and blues and, even in another lifetime, I was country bands for a couple of years, there's only, like Duke Ellington said, there's only two types of music, good and bad. And so I like to play good music.
What about
Yeah.
you, Josh? I assume you also like to play good music, but what do you listen to in your spare time? What inspires you?
Yeah, well, I'm a music teacher in New York City, and actually a lot of my listening is the music we do with my students. So it's a lot of like guitar, current pop tunes I find myself listening to. But I do like to listen to a whole lot of different things, and it's one of my favorite things about being a rhythm section instrument, like Tony was saying. You get to just do all sorts of different situations, I like doing community orchestras every now and again too, and playing just a slew of stuff.
Yeah. What interests me also is how do you, we talked about it before, you met quite a few years ago, played together for the first time, then on and off met in different formations, I'm sure. And what do you like about each other's sound? Maybe you start, Tony.
Well, one of the things that I like about Josh is he's got great time, he's got a great sound, he's got a big round sound, he's very articulate, and I actually love comping for Josh while he's soloing because he's such a great soloist, and he just it's like when it's going back to the vocabulary analogy. It's like you can meet and play with lots of different musicians and great ones and have a good time, but then certain ones you seem to speak really closer to the same vocabulary. And I feel like we have that, and also that trust of like being, as Josh said earlier, is like being adventurous. Like we're not afraid to go out on the ledge, take the chance, know the other person has got their ears open and will be listening. Because if you're not doing that, well, then what are you doing? You know what I mean? If you're playing jazz music, you can't be playing it like it's a memorized thing. You have to be communicating all the time, just like our conversations going in different directions.
Right.
And so with Josh, I feel that support all the time.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. How about you, Josh?
Yeah, that idea of trust, and I think in an improvisational setting, being able to just trust that like you will end up in the same place at some point.
Yeah.
And that's usually the case for us. We play together. But I do like there's also this, it's fun. Like I think that's another thing.
That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes,
If it's not fun, why do it?
Yeah.
Yes,
Because I remember, like talking about having the same vocabulary and languages. Like there are sometimes Tony will just do things and like it makes me giggle. So I'm like, oh, I know what you're doing. And it's like that,
Wow, cool.
that frees up, you know, that idea of like, oh, cool, there's less pressure happening now. And, you know, things just feel like they can be loose and fun, and it's not this strict environment where, you know, like, man, you missed that change, or you skipped 8 bars, which I've done many times.
Whoops,
You know?
got that DS.
Yeah.
Any last words for the audience? What would you like them to get out of it? Tony, why don't you take this one?
Well, I mean, I would hope, you know, where I would say, like, I play music for me, but when I take the instrument out in front of other people, I'm playing for them, right? And I want people to hear the music and get something positive out of it, whatever that is, because it's an intangible what you get out of music, right? You know, like if I listen, you and I listen to the same record, whatever emotions or whatever things go through your head, it's different, it's personal. My hope is that when people listen to music that I'm a part of playing, that they get something something positive out of it, something that makes them feel good, something that maybe makes them smile or giggle or just enjoy themselves, and most importantly, forget about everything else that's going on in their life. Like they're in this moment with us because we're not thinking about, oh man, what do I got to do tomorrow? We're not just thinking about this. And that's like, in today's world, I'm going to sound like I'm old now, but like in the world that we live in today, there's so much distraction all the time. Being present in a moment together is, I think, you know, what musicians are always trying to do. And if we can do it with an audience where there's no distractions for them, no moving parts around them, no sounds around them other than the music, that's a great thing. That's a special moment. You know?
Beautiful, beautiful. I think that's a good place to end it on. That's gorgeous. I can't wait for the concert. I'm going to the first one.
Okay, great.
Great.
Thank you so much. This was a great interview. I learned a lot.
Pleasure.
And thank you also to our online audience for tuning in today. As always, the concert will be live, or the recording session will be live at 3 o'clock and 7 o'clock. And then 2 days later, we'll live online on our website, where you can also find out more about Atelier Musical. You can join our team of volunteers or make a donation. Find us on ateliermusical.art. See you next time. Thank you.